Four disturbing horror stories animated by MJV Animations. I'm excited for this one. I don't know why. I just am.
I live in a middle-class suburban town in an East Coast state that is extremely anti-drug. The fleet of police, especially unmarked undercover cops, as we call them, is absolutely absurd for a relatively crime-free town. Except for pot-smoking kids, that is. There are
Okay.
unmarked police cars of every kind, from brand new Chevy sedans and hatchbacks to brand new Cadillac pickups and SUVs.
What kind of city
Dodge
is this?
Chargers, GMC, and Ford SUVs. Classic Ford Grand Victorias, Jeep Wranglers, fake taxi cabs,
Yo,
and everything you could possibly think of.
that's crazy.
Because there are so many unmarked police cars in my area, they often get decommissioned and are sold as used cars that still very much look like police cars. A friend of mine even owns a decommissioned Ford Grand
So literally just every single car in that city is a police car, pretty much.
Victoria. Last week I was on my way home from a date in an area that I was slightly unfamiliar with around midnight. I was driving along, following the speed limit, and I saw a blatant undercover police car tailgating me in the otherwise deserted road. He follows me for about 5 miles before finally turning on his lights. I was nervous. I had never been pulled over and I was driving past 11 o'clock, not necessarily allowed for minors in my area. Not to mention, I had a small amount of illegal herbs hidden under my spare tire in my trunk.
Okay.
So, knowing my town's extremely harsh police force, I was nervous. Regardless, I pull off the road into an abandoned gas station and I have my papers ready. The policeman approaches my window and he is wearing a police uniform, and I take notice that he's surprisingly good looking, in his early 20s with longer than most cops' blonde hair.
Okay.
He leans his head uncomfortably far into my small car and asks me where I'm headed and if I know why I was pulled over. I answer and I say no to the question. He smirks and says, I do, before returning to his car with my license, registration, and proof of insurance. The nearby street light illuminates his unmarked car and I study it in the mirror. He had a civilian license plate, no police badge on it. I also noticed as he walked away that his pants were much too short for him. The bell bottoms awkwardly exposed 6 inches of his ankles. I had a very bad feeling about the whole thing, but I
He is not
remained
a
in my
police
car.
officer.
He comes back to my car and asks me to pull around, behind the building of the closed gas station. I say sure, and I turn on my car, but inside of me, the alarm bells are ringing. There was no reason for me to go behind the
I
building,
know, right?
other than to hide our cars from the road. So I roll up my window and I dial 911 as he walks back to his car. I told the operator I was just pulled over by a suspicious police car, and I read her the license plate number. She tells me that it cannot possibly be a police car, and I
Yeah.
should get out of there as soon as possible
So
and
just
drive
drive
to a
away,
public
man.
place.
Drive away.
So I pull behind the building as instructed, with him following, and I pull my car around the other side of the building. And then I make a break for the road.
Exactly.
He turns on his lights and follows. So I'm still on the phone with 911, and my operator isn't giving me any helpful information.
Bro, she's useless. Get her out of here.
I'm trying to win a car chase in my 1994 0 to 60 in 20 minutes Nissan.
20
crying
minutes.
hysterically.
It's kind of crazy.
I'm flying down a road that I don't know at 75 miles an hour, faster than I'd ever driven before, and my car begins shaking violently. The policeman keeps a steady trail behind me.
I'm not gonna lie.
Lights, but not sirens on.
I'm brake checking him, bro. I don't care. I'm brake checking him. Because then he probably gets stunned. I would get stunned too. But, like, brake check him and then drive off again.
My poor car screams and screeches through a red light, and after the turn, I realize I'm on the road that runs through my town. I now know exactly where I am.
W?
This road is much more populated, and I have my fingers on the horn. It's a button. And I'm weaving through the angry drivers at 60 on a 40-mile-per-hour road. My only hope is to attract the attention of a real police officer, because I know that they hide on this road to catch speeders.
That's actually kind of good.
I finally approach an out-of-business diner that sits in front of my neighborhood.
Out of business.
I whip into the parking lot because I've never passed that diner without there being a hiding police car. I stop my car and look around desperately. I don't see anyone. I've never felt such a feeling of hopelessness in my life. I thought I was going to die. When I drove into that parking lot, I expected to run into the arms of my hero, but instead I was alone in an abandoned parking lot. The only sounds were the violent protests coming from my engine, and I was sure it wouldn't start again if I tried. I froze. I'm not sure how long I sat there with white knuckles, strangling my steering wheel. I only turned around when I heard a car
Well-
door slam, and I was sure this was the end. look at the mirror,
Oh my
expecting the
god.
horrible short pants wearing, fake policeman. But instead, I see 3 marked, real police cars, with 5 or 6 policemen exiting, hands on guns looking concerned. They brought me to the station and took my statement and calmed me down.
Okay.
Apparently the fake police car gave up on the chase when I turned into the parking lot, probably fearing there was a hiding police car there. They praised me for my critical thinking and calling 911, and told me there had been a string of violent rapes, one ending in a girl's death in the neighboring state, all pulled over by a car matching my description. As far as I know, they haven't caught him.
Yeah, bro. Bro is weird. He
This
sucks.
story belongs to my mother, and it's become something of a common warning to teach us how demented some cops could be. My
Are
mom
these
was
just
in
cop
high school in
stories?
the 80s. Her parents were divorced, and she lived with her mother and younger brother, my grandmother and uncle. She had a little interaction with her father growing up, and because of this, she developed into something of a rebellious teenager. She smoked a lot of weed and drank, and would sometimes even
Again
sneak
with the
out to go to
weed.
parties or to hang out with her friends. Because of this, she snuck out one night to hang out with a group of her friends, and they drank like hell. Eventually, they decided that they wanted to go somewhere else, and at around 12 a.m. or so, they got into their car and drove off. My mom will always stop right here to remind my brother and sister and I to never drink and drive. It must have been pretty obvious that they were drunk, because they were pulled over by a cop.
Crazy.
My mom grew up in small-town America, about as stereotypical as you could get, surrounded by farmland for miles around, and everyone knew everyone. In high school, football was the most important thing in the world,
You mean
maybe
soccer?
outclassed only by our nearby major college teams. The town she grew up in only had about 5,000 people in it. When they were pulled over, my mom and her 3 friends started to panic. One of them even started to cry.
Man, she
My mom
drunk.
is a rather collected person and had the sense to at least look behind her. She saw that there were 2 cops. One walked over to the
I
car
only
and
see
the
one.
other stayed in the police cruiser. She tries to find out who the man is, but the light obscures his face.
I can build like that.
He walks over slowly and leans over to speak to the girls through their open window. My mom sighs in relief as she recognizes him. She knew him as Mr. Nelson, a big man in his 40s who went to her church. In her drunk state, she's hoping that they might be able to get out of this with only a
So-
warning.
They should be fine,
Hell,
right?
maybe he might agree to not tell her parents. Mr. Nelson looks right at my mom.
I mean, she's not even
Having a
driving.
good night, are we, Miss Kelvin? He asks
Oh.
her. My mom smiles, both nervous and embarrassed. Sorry, Mr. Nelson. We must have been distracting the driver too much. My mom had gotten used to lying by this point and was already pretty good at it, but
Crazy.
Mr. Nelson looked unconvinced. He
Big
asks
ass
for the
eyes.
standard driver license and registration, and then asks them all to step out of the vehicle and walks back to his cruiser. Oh no, my mom's friend whispers to her, "We're gonna get tested." My mom calms him down and they step out of the car. The cops ask him to do some pretty basic stuff at first, mostly stuff that you would expect from a cop trying to determine if you were drunk. Mr. Nelson and his partner, some guy that my mom didn't recognize,
Why does partner look
told
like
the
that?
girls to stand over by their car, putting a fair amount of distance between the 2 groups. When my mom looks back at them, Mr. Nelson had the faintest of smiles on his face. "Okay, ladies," he says, "there's 2 things that could happen." Mr. Nelson turns
Nah, bro, look at their devious smiles. Yeah, man. Mr. Nelson, man, what you doing, man?
to his partner, and they both smile mischievously at one another. "We could take you home and tell your parents everything. We could do that, or..." His smile gets bigger. "You could do something for us." A chill runs
Man.
down my mom's back. She did not like the way he said that at all.
Just go home.
"What kind of things?" one of her friends
Man,
asks.
she would do it.
Mr. Nelson's smile gets bigger. "It's not an evil or sadistic smile," she says. She said that it looked more like a smug satisfaction. "I'm thinking that we might have to conduct a strip search." My mom's blood went cold.
Man,
Everything goes silent
look
for a
at
second,
bro when like...
except for the smug smiles on their faces
Come on.
and the low bit of laughter that came from the other officer. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. The Mr. Nelson that she'd known for years, who she saw every week, whose children went to school with her, was trying to force her 16-year-old self and friends to strip down in front of him. "What?" was all my mom could muster. Mr. Nelson looked at her, a hungry look on his face. "Come on, this doesn't have to end badly. Just show us some skin and we can forget this ever happened." My mom and her friends refused at first. There was no way in hell that they would do that, no matter how much trouble it would get them in. But Mr. Nelson's face darkened. "I don't think you understand," he growled. Now, how about you be
Man,
nice and friendly and do it?
just go back to your
His voice
wife.
terrified
Come
them.
on.
His manner of tone and his significantly more aggressive approach made my mother go white with terror. Worried as to what they might do if they refused, my mom and her friends obeyed. They stripped down completely nude and just stood there.
Completely nude is
The
kind of
cops laughed
crazy.
and
I'm not
smiled like
gonna lie.
smug assholes.
Why would they do that?
They were clearly getting a kick out of this. My mother won't talk about what they did, and for the life of me, I really don't want to know. But what I do know is that eventually the cops had all the girls lean against their car. It was here that she managed to get time to communicate with her friends. One of them was crying hard, and she nearly got caught trying to get her attention. They agreed that on 3, they would all sprint into the cornfield to their right, hide in there, and try and escape them. And they did. They
Damn.
managed to get far into the cornfield. Mr. Nelson tried grabbing at one of her friends, but she avoided him.
W
The cops
juke.
didn't even try to pursue them into the cornfield. They just got right back in their car and drove like madmen. They waited for a full 10 minutes, making sure that the cops weren't intending on coming back. They got back to their car, dressed in their clothes, and went straight home.
That's
In the next few days, Mr. Nelson never said anything to anyone about pulling them over, and they never reported what happened. If they ever did, Mr. Nelson would just say that they were drunk. Mr. Nelson was an upstanding figure in the community, and no one would have believed the girls. This was the 80s, and nothing would ever have happened or changed. If anything, it would have just made the girls' lives hell. Every now and then at church, she would find Mr. Nelson, and he would flash her that smug smile and wink at her. You never know what's behind, even the most upstanding of people, that's for sure. To Mr. Nelson, I hope you're rotting somewhere.
yeah. Bro can go right in his grave. But yeah, but that's even for me, that's like, yeah, that's messed up. You know?
2 summers ago, on our way from an out-of-town day trip for my son's birthday party, we went to a water park and decided to go to dinner in this really small town after getting slightly lost due to Google Maps' crappy directions. After dinner, we noticed across the
Yeah, real quick, just to go back, I'm sorry. It'd be like that sometimes, man. Like the best people have the darkest secrets. You see that in TV all the time. But yeah.
street that there was a county fair, so we checked it out for fun. It was getting dark and the fair was nearly over, but we caught a tractor pull that was about to begin. We'd never been to one of those, so we thought it might be a fun way to top off the birthday trip. We sat on the bleachers and watched for a while. There were a lot of families there watching, and also a lot of drunk people as well. I didn't think anything of it. I had my 16-year-old son with me and a good friend of mine who was a strong guy, so I felt safe.
Do
We
you are you in
decided to
love with
leave
her?
the fair before the event was over,
I'm
so as not to be on the road at night with the drunks. We walked back to the restaurant, which was now closed, and we got into my car and set off for home. Backtracking using Google Maps directions, we got on the road that I recognized would get us back home. I noticed that as soon as we pulled out of the restaurant, there was a car behind me. The only other car on the road, as most of the town inhabitants were most likely at the fair or at home.
It's the same dude from the first story.
The car followed
Like,
us onto
come
the
on.
road we took to get home, which I found odd because it was a desolate back hill road with a wooded area on either side. I thought maybe they too were from out of town and were using the same cut across to get to the interstate, as it was summer and many people road trip. I still felt uneasy about it, but I decided to just get off this road and onto the interstate as soon as possible. As we were driving on this hilly back road, it was fully dark outside, and I kept it easy for fear of a deer running out in front of us. The car stayed right behind me, so I slowed way down, hoping he would just be annoyed enough to pass me for going too slow.
Yeah.
But instead, he drove right up on my ass,
Look at
tailgating
bro.
me. I could see that it was only one person in the car, and the windows were tinted.
Is that a PNG image?
I dared to speed up, wanting to get on a main road or interstate as soon as I could. He stayed right behind me, going as fast or as slow as I was, not bothering to get off my bumper.
That's crazy.
I knew
Yo,
without a doubt we were being harassed
you
now.
gotta do something.
I was
Yeah,
getting
something.
scared. I mean, I had my son in the back seat, and it
Get
was
your
his
friend right
birthday.
there though.
This was unfair, and I kicked myself for going to the tractor pull. Of course, I could not have predicted this craziness. After what seemed like ages, we got onto the interstate. I had hoped it was just some local jerk who wanted to scare some city folks, but I somehow knew it was not that simple. As I feared, he followed us onto the interstate. Even on the highway, he tailgated us. I slowed down initially, hoping in futility that he'd pass
Man,
us.
brake check him.
No luck. I sped way up. He caught up and stayed too close.
Yeah, bro.
Unfortunately, the interstate was quiet on our
There's no
side,
other.
so I had
Yeah,
no choice but to keep going.
man.
My friend was getting very angry and ready to fight if necessary, but I wanted no part of meeting this guy face to face,
Man, go pull over.
especially with my birthday boy in the back
Just
seat.
pull over at this point.
I just kept going and prayed not to get a flat tire. At one point, I got scared enough to lay on the horn while driving, hoping the noise would dissuade him. It actually worked. He pulled over onto the shoulder and I saw his headlights turn off. I was relieved at first, but we found it odd that he killed the lights.
Exactly.
After that, we sped up and I was flying for home. The sooner the better. About 15 minutes passed in blissful uneventfulness. We talked about how scary that whole ordeal was and eventually started feeling relieved to put it all behind us. Literally. Literally, we were about 25 minutes from home, and there were a couple of vehicles here and there, which made us feel less alone on the road. At one
Okay.
point, when the cars thinned out and we were once again alone on the road completely, something happened that I could not believe. Right next to us and slightly behind us,
Yo, he's back.
headlights, bright, burst on.
Bro is trying way too hard. I mean, what's the purpose, man? Literally, bro. What's the point? It's gotta be a spirit or something.
He had been
Come on.
following us that whole time with his lights off, staying carefully behind us and waiting for his chance to scare and surprise us.
You look different now.
I almost started crying, but at this point I was too angry.
Man,
This guy had been following us for an hour now.
grow up.
Far ahead of us, I saw the taillights of a semi. I sped up quickly, with the stranger in the car next to me, trying to pace us from the fast lane. I think he realized that I was trying to catch up with the semi, so for the first time in this insane chase, he did something truly dangerous and swerved at my rear panel, a pit
Yeah.
maneuver, trying to push us off the road. I sped ahead and missed him, clipping me by inches. I finally reached the semi-driver and got close, hugging the back of his truck as much as I dared, and leaving no room for this jerk to cut me off.
The
We
truck
went
just
this
stopped,
way
though.
for a little while. Finally, and I truly believe this semi-truck driver knew something was wrong, because after so long of seeing this crazy driver swerving at me and trying to get in front of me, as I would not let him over, the semi-driver did something I will forever appreciate him for. He swerved over onto the fast lane and dangerously cut off the stranger's car and
Yo.
then tapped his brakes. I took it as my cue to speed ahead from
Yeah,
the
real
slow
one.
lane and try to lose this creep.
That truck is a real one. That truck driver, he got it. He probably died, let's be honest. But nah, I'm just kidding. But he a real
Sped
one
up
for
to
that.
probably 90.
Yo, truck drivers are the best people out there, man. At least most of the time.
My hometown was just straight ahead, so I took a sharp left turn onto a back street that led to a main road and stopped in a busy, well-lit gas station. Luckily, there was a cop there. My friend got out and explained the whole situation to
was.
the officer, and he called for other cars to search for this guy. We left the gas station after calling a friend to follow me to a parking lot, where I stowed my car overnight because I did not want the guy to possibly find my house by recognizing the car. I watched my back for quite some time after that, and I always noticed that make and model of car in white if I see it on the streets. Thank goodness we got away safely. Now, the
Yeah.
most bothersome thing about this story is that the small town where this took place happens to be the hometown of one of the biggest mental health asylums in the Midwest. This thought has kept me awake more
Of
than
course
once,
it is.
and I still check the papers for stories or escapees.
Genuinely, of course it is.
This occurred in 2009. I was 22 years old and I was leaving my home state of California to head east for my corrections job. I was driving down the loneliest highway portion of the route, and it
Always
was
like
around
that,
3 a.m. on a Sunday. They don't call it the loneliest highway for nothing. I hadn't seen another soul for at least a half hour.
Yeah, because it's 3 a.m.
I was getting sleepy, but I wasn't tired enough to pull over and take a nap. Suddenly, I saw a broken down car on the side of the highway.
No.
I slowed down and saw a woman standing next to the car. So I approached this woman with caution, rolling
I
down
guess.
my window just a sliver. Something about her wasn't right. I couldn't put my finger on it then, but I know now it was my subconscious screaming red flag, red flag.
Just, of course.
I asked her if she needed me to call a tow truck or AAA for her, and she immediately tried to open my door.
Okay, in this situation, drive off, man. Why aren't you driving off? I mean, I know she probably looked good, but come on, man.
I explained to her I didn't feel comfortable by letting her in, but I'd wait until a tow truck came. She immediately got this look of rage on her face and started berating me.
Yeah.
You're a big man. I mean, what am I going to do? She was calling me cruel for not letting her in. This is where I messed up, and I can see this now 10 years later. I begrudgingly unlocked my door, figuring that she was right. I mean, she was 5'2" and I'm over 6 feet.
Okay, I mean, she 5'2", that is kind of crazy. But I mean, like, at that point, drive off, man. Maybe you should have just drove off.
And I have 100 pounds on her easily. She looked to be about 90 pounds or so.
That's...
She slips in, and I asked her who I can call. This was 10 years ago, like I said, so I had a little BlackBerry Slide, I think, at the time. She starts telling me that she'd just prefer if I'd give her a ride to the next town. Now I'm starting to realize I'd done messed up because she's avoiding eye contact and she's fumbling in her purse. When I mention calling for help, she starts getting aggressive, demanding I take her to the next town. I'm so busy trying to unfuck this situation that I miss a man who either was hiding in or near her car. It wasn't until he was almost to my driver's side door that I managed to catch him in my mirror. Fight or flight kicked in overdrive, and I put my car in drive, and I sped off as the fucker was reaching for my car door.
Crazy work.
When I started driving, I heard a pinging noise, and then my mirror exploding. He was shooting at me.
Oh, yeah.
The adrenaline alone had me doing near 90, and by this time, Homegirl realized in whatever drug-induced state she was in that her little plan was futile.
Homegirl. That's crazy.
She started hitting me, telling me to stop and to let her out. When I reached enough of a distance, I did just that. I pulled over and demanded she got the hell out. She started going for the oversized purse she had, but I had enough. I was literally shaking with adrenaline, so I reached over, opened the door, and pretty much shoved her out.
So she got her willingly?
For her purse, but she managed to hold on to it, not before dumping half of what was in there on my passenger seat. I sped off with my door still open. I waited till I got a good distance from her, and I slammed it shut and locked it. I clenched the wheel and I drove. It wasn't until later that morning I pulled into a Denny's did I realize how close I was to pretty much dying. I had a good cry for a minute, and then I realized a bunch of her things spilled onto my passenger seat. Most of it was nasty, wadded up napkins and a few tubes of lipstick and drug paraphernalia.
Oh, that's,
I considered calling the cops or finding a highway patrol officer.
Do it.
But I did do something stupid.
Oh my god.
I tossed all of her things that had fallen into a trash bag and I threw them away. At the time, I had the dream of becoming a cop, and I knew if I got caught with drug paraphernalia, that would probably be impossible. I didn't think they would believe me that the drug paraphernalia wasn't mine.
I guess.
I noticed a cop at the gas station across from the
There's
Denny's,
always
and
a
I told
cop.
him what happened.
Like, come on.
He pretty much berated me for pulling over and then letting her in.
I know, yeah, that's a stupid decision. Come on, you're a cop. You gotta keep him calm, man.
He did say he'd look into it, but I doubt he did. I was so shaken that I pretty much picked at my pancakes and then left to continue on my way. I never did replace that mirror. I also ended up selling my car. To this day, 10 years later, I hesitate to stop and help stranded motorists.
Well, hey man, that was all on you though. But you know, that was 4 Disturbing Corn Stories animated by MJV Animations. Shout out to them. Yeah, definitely creepy stuff, or not even creepy stuff, just like, you know, yeah. But yeah, link to the video will be in the description. Like, subscribe, stay tuned for more.